Hi, thank you for joining me. Today I am reading, one second, let me get there. I'm using a new setup. When Humanity Stopped Looking Up by Jason Gray. 8/10/2026, 6026, Annalusis, 6:30 GMT -6, #Winnipeg, #Manitoba, #Canada. The internet was once an escape from the real world. Now the real world is an escape from the internet. There is an even darker question hidden beneath that observation. What happens when we stop escaping back? What happens when humanity becomes so comfortable inside the manufactured world that the physical one begins to feel inconvenient? Too slow, too quiet, too unpredictable, too imperfect, too ordinary, too real. One of the greatest dangers of the digital age is not that technology will become more powerful than humanity. It is that humanity will willingly surrender more and more of itself to technology because the artificial world is easier to inhabit. Reality demands something from us. It demands patience. It demands effort. It demands vulnerability. It demands that we experience boredom, rejection, failure, waiting, uncertainty, silence. Reality does not have a block button. You cannot mute winter. You cannot unfollow grief. You cannot filter an aging face. You cannot edit yesterday. You cannot scroll past consequences. You cannot delete every person who disagrees with you. You cannot refresh your way out of mortality. Reality refuses customization, and that is exactly why the manufactured world has become so seductive. In the manufactured world, everything can be adjusted. We can choose what we see, choose what we hear. Choose who we hear, choose what parts of ourselves we reveal, choose the photograph, choose the angle, choose the caption, choose the audience, choose the identity, choose the version of reality we prefer. Slowly, the screen stops being a window, it becomes a mirror. Then something even more dangerous happens. The mirror begins telling us who we are. The colonization of attention. Human civilization has always fought over valuable territory, land, water, trade routes, resources, energy. The most valuable territory of the 21st century is something far more intimate: human attention. Your attention is finite. There are only so many hours in your life, only so many things you can think about, only so many people you can deeply know, only so many sunsets you will witness, only so many conversations you will have, only so many mornings you will wake up. Every minute of attention spent somewhere is a minute unavailable somewhere else. That makes attention extraordinarily valuable, and an enormous portion of the digital economy has learned how to compete for it, not once, constantly. The objective is simple: keep you looking, keep you clicking, keep you watching, keep you reacting, keep you scrolling, keep you returning, because attention can be measured, and what can be measured can be monetized. The tragedy is that we often speak about this as though nothing significant is being exchanged. We say an app is free, a platform is free, a service is free. The currency is not money. The currency is time, and time is the one currency you can never earn back. A person can lose money and make more, lose possessions and replace them, lose status and rebuild it, but 10,000 hours surrendered are 10,000 hours gone forever. That should make us extraordinarily careful about what receives our attention. We hand it away in fragments: 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, another hour. The fragments seem insignificant until they become years, then decades. The machine that learned you. There was a time when you searched the internet. Now the internet searches you. It watches what holds your attention, what you skip, what you replay, what you click, what you ignore, what makes you angry, what makes you curious, what makes you afraid, what keeps you watching. For those tiny signals, systems can build increasingly sophisticated predictions about what is likely to capture you next. Not necessarily what will make you wiser, not necessarily what will make you happier, not necessarily what is true, what will keep you engaged. That distinction matters because truth is often boring. Truth is complicated. Truth requires context. Truth frequently refuses to fit neatly into a headline. Outrage, however, is immediate. Fear is immediate. Conflict is immediate. Shock is immediate. And when systems compete for attention, The most emotionally provocative material can possess an enormous advantage. Civilization becomes louder. Everything becomes urgent. Everything becomes catastrophic. Everything becomes unbelievable. Everything becomes the most important thing happening right now, until tomorrow, when something else becomes the most important thing happening right now. Human beings were never designed to psychologically inhabit the entire planet simultaneously. For most of our existence, our nervous systems dealt primarily with what was immediately around us: family, community, weather, food, shelter, nearby danger, nearby opportunity. Now a person can wake up and absorb tragedy, conflict, disaster, outrage, and fear from dozens of countries before breakfast. Then we wonder why people feel overwhelmed. The human mind gained access to the entire world, but the human nervous system did not suddenly evolve to carry the emotional weight of the entire world. The death of boredom. One of the quietest one of the quietest casualties of the digital age is boredom. We treat boredom as an enemy. The moment nothing happens, we reach, pocket, screen, scroll, waiting in line, scroll, sitting in a vehicle, scroll, commercial break, scroll, waiting for someone, scroll, bathroom, scroll, unable to sleep, scroll. The tiny empty spaces of human life have been filled, but those empty spaces were not necessarily empty. That was where imagination lived, where reflection happened, where ideas formed, where children invented worlds, where adults processed experiences, where the mind wandered without being directed, where questions appeared, where creativity quietly assembled pieces that previously seemed unrelated. We eliminated boredom, and we eliminated one of the environments in which original thought grows, because creativity requires space, and we are filling every space. The outsourcing of memory. There is another transformation happening. Human beings increasingly do not need to remember information. We need to remember where information can be retrieved. Phone numbers, directions, dates, photographs, conversations, documents, birthdays, appointments, ideas. Entire portions of our memory are being externalized. This is not automatically bad. Writing itself was once an external memory technology. Books externalized memory. Libraries externalized memory. Photography externalized memory. Computers expanded that process dramatically. The danger begins when external storage becomes mistaken for permanent storage. Digital information feels immortal. It is not. Accounts disappear. Platforms shut down. Hard drives fail. Formats become obsolete. Passwords are forgotten. Services change. Files become corrupted. Companies collapse. Links die. A civilization can produce more information than any previous civilization in history, while simultaneously creating enormous amounts of information that may prove surprisingly fragile. There is something almost paradoxical about it. A handwritten letter stored carefully in a box can survive generations. A digital message can disappear with an account. A printed photograph can be discovered by a grandchild decades later. Thousands of photographs trapped inside an inaccessible device may effectively cease to exist. We have mistaken abundance for permanence. They are not the same thing. The performance of existence. Then came another transformation. Life itself became content. Meals became content. Vacations became content. Relationships became content. Children became content. Grief became content. Fitness became content. Kindness became content. Arguments became content. Private moments became content. Eventually, we crossed a strange psychological threshold. We stopped simply asking, "What do I want to experience?" We began asking, "How will this look?" That is a profound change. Once an audience enters the mind, even when the audience is not physically present, behavior changes. The person is no longer simply experiencing the moment. Part of them is standing outside the moment, imagining how the moment will be perceived. Will people like this? Will they envy this? Will they understand this? Should I photograph this? Should I post this? What should I write beneath it? The experience splits. One part is lived, the other is performed. Eventually, it becomes possible to spend enormous portions of life documenting that we are alive instead of fully experiencing being alive. The Great Comparison. For most of human history, people compared themselves primarily with those around them. Now comparison has become global, and the comparison is fundamentally unfair. You compare your ordinary Tuesday morning against someone else's carefully selected highlight, your kitchen against their vacation, your exhaustion against their celebration, your uncertainty against their announcement, your body against their chosen photograph, your financial struggle against their new purchase, your complicated relationship against their anniversary post, your beginning against their apparent finish line. And because the stream never ends, there is always someone richer, more attractive, more successful, more traveled, more popular, more productive, more celebrated. The finish line moves forever. Enough becomes impossible, and a civilization that never feels it has enough becomes extraordinarily easy to sell things to. When identity becomes data. Perhaps one of the strangest developments is that human identity is increasingly represented numerically. Follower count, subscriber count, views, likes, shares, comments, watch time, reach, engagement, numbers everywhere. Numbers are useful, but numbers become dangerous when we confuse measurement with meaning. 1,000,000 people can see something meaningless. 10 people can read something that changes their lives. A photograph can receive almost no attention and still be the most important photograph someone ever took. A letter can have one reader and matter for 50 years. A conversation can have no audience whatsoever and alter the direction of 2 lives. Not everything valuable scales. Some things become valuable precisely because they do not. The life of the private self. The loss of the private self. Previous generations possessed something that has become increasingly rare. Large portions of their lives were undocumented. Think about that. The entire friendships existed without public evidence. Entire relationships unfolded privately. Thousands of meals disappeared into memory. Arguments happened and were forgotten. Embarrassing moments vanished. Teenage mistakes were not permanently searchable. People were allowed to become different people without dragging a complete digital archive of themselves behind them. There was mercy in forgetting. Now we are building a civilization that remembers almost everything and understands almost nothing. A foolish sentence can survive longer than the person who wrote it. An awkward photograph can travel endlessly. A mistake can be copied, archived, redistributed, and rediscovered. Human beings require room to change. A person at 15 should not be imprisoned forever by who they were at 15. A person at 25 should be allowed to contradict their younger self. Growth requires revision. Wisdom requires admitting, I used to believe something I no longer believe. A culture incapable of allowing people to change eventually discourages honesty. People stop exploring ideas. They perform certainty instead. When conversation becomes combat. The physical world forces us to confront the humanity of other people, their facial expressions, their hesitation, their tone, their nervousness, their pain, their humor, their contradictions. A screen strips that away. A human being becomes a username, an avatar, a paragraph, a political position, a comment. And once someone becomes an abstraction, cruelty becomes easier. Things people would never say across a kitchen table are typed casually into screens. Complex human beings are reduced to categories: friend or enemy, correct or incorrect, us or them, good or evil. Civilization begins losing the ability to disagree without dehumanizing. That should concern everyone, because civilization itself depends upon cooperation between people who do not completely agree. If disagreement automatically becomes hatred, society fractures into tribes incapable of speaking to one another, and the algorithms do not suffer from that fracture. Conflict is incredibly engaging. Humanity suffers. The world outside the window. Outside all of this, reality continues. Trees grow, rivers move, snow falls, animals migrate, children are born, people age, buildings decay, gardens grow, storms arrive, stars move across the sky. The physical world continues whether we pay attention to it or not. And there is something haunting about imagining millions of people sitting inside rooms watching representations of life while life itself is occurring inches beyond the glass. We watch videos of forests while forests stand outside. We watch videos of oceans while planning someday to visit one. We watch people build things instead of learning how. We watch people travel instead of exploring nearby places. We watch people cook instead of cooking. We watch people talk about books instead of reading them. We watch people exercise instead of moving. We watch people create instead of creating. We became spectators, and spectatorship becomes comfortable. Participation involves risk. You might fail. You might look foolish. You might become lost. You might be rejected. You might discover that you are not immediately talented. The digital world allows you to watch someone else take those risks instead, but there is a price. You cannot outsource experience. Nobody can watch a sunset for you. Nobody can build your friendships for you. Nobody can walk your path for you. Nobody can become courageous on your behalf. Nobody can live your life for you. The disappearing physical world. Look around your home. How many things that once existed physically have disappeared into one device? Maps, calendars, clocks, cameras, photographs, letters, newspapers, magazines, tickets, boarding passes, music collections, movie collections, address books, notebooks, books, receipts, documents, everything compressed into glass. Convenient? Absolutely. But there is a consequence to planning enormous portions of life inside a single invisible ecosystem. Physical objects occupy space, and because they occupy space, they leave evidence. A box of photographs discovered in an attic tells a story. A handwritten recipe carries fingerprints, stains, and handwriting. A letter contains pressure marks from the pen. An old book contains notes in the margins. A ticket stub remembers a place. A notebook preserves the evolution of a thought. Physical objects age beside us. Digital objects simply exist until one day they do not. This is why physical things are beginning to feel sacred again. Vinyl records, printed photographs, handwritten journals, letters, books, film cameras, paper, objects we can hold. This is not nostalgia. This is some part of us understanding instinctively that human memory needs anchors. The generation that may have to choose. There will come a point when humanity faces a decision, not between technology and no technology. That choice is already long gone. Technology is part of civilization now. The real decision will be between two relationships with technology. In one, technology remains a tool. It helps us communicate, create, learn, discover, heal, build, navigate, understand, preserve, connect. Then we put it down. In the other, technology becomes the environment through which nearly all human experience is mediated. Friendship, work, education, entertainment, identity, memory, romance, politics, shopping, community, creativity, everything filtered through systems standing between human beings and reality. That future may be extraordinarily convenient, but convenience should never automatically be confused with progress. Sometimes friction protects something important. The effort required to write a letter makes the letter meaningful. The effort required to visit someone demonstrates care. The effort required to learn a skill develops patience. The effort required to remember develops memory. The effort required to navigate disagreement develops maturity. The effort required to sit with boredom develops imagination. Remove every difficulty from human existence, and eventually we may discover that some difficulties were quietly building us. The last unmonetized place. There's still somewhere the algorithm cannot completely follow. Outside. Far enough away, deep enough into the forest, onto the water, across the field, up the mountain, down an empty road. Somewhere the signal weakens and then disappears. Suddenly the machine becomes silent. At first your hand will still reach instinctively toward your pocket. You will feel the strange phantom expectation of a notification. You will wonder what you are missing. Then enough time passes. Your breathing changes. Your attention expands. You begin noticing things. Wind moving through leaves. Water against stone. the temperature of the air, birds somewhere beyond sight, your footsteps, your own thoughts. Then something ancient inside you remembers. This is where I came from. Not from the feed, not from the network, not from the platform, not from the algorithm. From here. Earth, soil, water, air, fire, other human beings, the physical world. That is why nature feels increasingly powerful. It is one of the few remaining environments where reality does not care whether you are watching. The mountain does not perform for us. The forest does not need engagement. The lake does not refresh itself because attention dropped. The stars require no followers. Reality simply exists. Look up. There is an image that will someday define our era. Millions of human beings walking through an extraordinary world with their heads tilted downward. Above them, clouds, stars, birds, architecture, weather, moonlight, sunrise, other faces, possibility. Below their eyes, a glowing rectangle. Future generations will look back at photographs of us the way we look at photographs of previous civilizations and wonder how people could fail to recognize what was happening around them. How did they not see it? How did they surrender so much attention? How did they allow corporations, platforms, and algorithms to enter nearly every waking hour? How did they become more connected technologically while becoming increasingly lonely? How did they possess access to nearly all human knowledge, yet become so divided over what was true? How did they photograph everything, yet preserve so little physically? How did they communicate constantly, yet struggle to talk to one another? How did they have thousands of digital connections, yet feel alone? The answer will be frighteningly simple. It happened gradually. There was no single day when humanity decided to move inside the machine. There was no announcement, no ceremony, no vote, no moment when everyone agreed to surrender their attention. It happened one convenience at a time, one notification at a time, one account at a time, one device at a time, 1 hour at a time, until eventually the strange world became normal. The normal world became strange, until silence felt uncomfortable, privacy felt suspicious, boredom felt intolerable, waiting felt unbearable, being unreachable felt irresponsible. Reality itself began to feel insufficient without digital confirmation. This is the threshold we must never cross completely. The internet is an extraordinary human invention. It is not humanity. The map is not the territory. The photograph is not the moment. The profile is not the person. The message is not the conversation. The follower is not necessarily the friend. The archive is not the memory. The simulation is not the experience, and the screen is not the world. The most important technological skill of the future will not be learning how to use increasingly powerful machines. Everyone will know how to do that. The rare skill will be knowing when not to use them, knowing when to disconnect, knowing when to disappear, knowing when something does not need to be photographed, knowing when a thought does not need to be posted, knowing when an argument does not require participation, knowing when the world does not need our opinion, knowing when boredom should remain boredom, knowing when silence should remain silence, knowing when a moment should belong only to the people standing inside it, knowing when to protect parts of ourselves from becoming content. Not everything sacred needs an audience. Not everything meaningful needs documentation. Not everything beautiful needs distribution. Some things should simply be lived. This is how we reclaim ourselves, not by destroying the digital world, but by remembering that we existed before we entered it. Put the device down, walk outside, leave it behind sometimes. Go somewhere the signal cannot reach. Sit beneath a tree, walk beside water, look another human being directly in the eyes. Write something by hand, print something worth preserving, hold a photograph, read a physical book, make something nobody will ever see online. Have a conversation that leaves no digital record. Watch a sunset without photographing it. Allow an extraordinary moment to disappear into memory. When the impulse arrives to reach for the screen, wait, look around, listen. This is the world. This imperfect, inconvenient, unpredictable, beautiful physical world. This is where your body exists. This is where the people you love exist. This is where every breath occurs. This is where your limited number of days are actually being spent. The internet was once an escape from the real world. Then the real world became an escape from the internet. We should be very careful about what comes next. The final stage will be the moment humanity no longer remembers there was anything to escape back to. And the most important instruction we can leave for those who come after us will be the only two words. Look up. Jason Gray. Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see how my new my new setup goes. All right, I appreciate you. I will see you next time.